Without music, the intros are just kind of awkward now. I don't like doing the big, hey, welcome to blah, blah, blah. It feels like when I was in radio broadcasting, but I guess I have to officially let you know what you're listening to in case somehow this was on autoplay or whatever. Hi, welcome to You Are the One You Seek. I'm your host, David, and today I've got issues with lots and lots of tissues to accompany them because I'm literally blowing my nose constantly. Yes, if you've listened recently, you know I've had some health challenges, and the last episode I kind of did a little bit of a SOS for help, and then I found the wild intuition to just call the number on a card that had been sitting in front of me for this chiropractor, who, to be fair, I'm like 0 for 7 with chiropractors in my life, something probably like 0 for 6. I don't know. I don't remember the exact number. Not a good ratio in terms of success and good experiences. And I'm sure people who have had more success could say that says more about me than anything else. Probably, I do tend to stump every doctor I go to as far as like what's wrong with me, which is probably not as big of a mystery as I build it up in my head. I just don't have access to I don't have the money to go to through the conventional routes you have to go through to get to a specialist, to get those tests, and then to be able to pay for treatment. And, there's a lot of things that are insanely cost prohibitive in this country. And unfortunately, your health is number one. It's the biggest cause of debt. And that to me is a moral crisis. But anyway, that's not what this is about today. I'm learning through just basically having fewer options to trust intuitively that if something needs to happen, it will happen at the right timing. I get my hopes and dreams kind of built up on technology ramping up really rapidly. If Bashar is correct and there's open contact with other species in 2027, he talks about all this technology with healing and health and vibrational and sound healing, which many intuitives are already using and already believe that those are going to be the healing tools of the future. So it gets me more excited about this idea of like, if I can just make it till then, maybe I could be like a really cool testimonial for them, I can convince people, hey, come check out the Pleiadians health pod. It totally fixed all of my genetic coding issues and whatever, chronic pain or whatever other health problems that I've had kind of on repeat, on loop, stomach digestion issues, all that kind of stuff. I personally, I'm trying to put that energy out there because I truly would be a happy spokesman for that kind of technology. And I believe it exists. It's a matter of the old control system has to fall away before we're given access to all these tools that will super advance our quality of life and our passion for being here on this earth and for actually doing things to contribute to advancing this whole experiment. So anyway, I haven't really had a ton of breakthroughs. I've been seeing this chiropractor, like I mentioned, and he does a lot of newer techniques and implores some vibrational stuff, electromagnetic pulse machine, like this giant. It looks like a giant old PC, but it's super heavy. It's almost like a giant battery, and which it pretty much, I guess, probably is. But it generates an electromagnetic pulse at different intensities, and you basically just put the pad wherever on your body. And I mean, this thing gets a lot of my body just kind of like moving, almost like jolting forward. Kind of like if you're getting electrical stimulation, but it's a field of electromagnetism versus like a one-way current. So it's a really unique sensation, but it does trigger a lot of the pain points you have where there's dysfunction or breakdown in whatever material in your body, connective tissue or fascia or whatever it is. For me, it's like, it feels like a lot of different things. Anyway, that has helped, but I still have this crazy digestive issue I'm not going to go into details about. That's persistent, that really limits my ability to eat more than a few things or, go out and meet people for food or anything like that. It's a really weird, frustrating, but like not serious enough just to like go to a hospital and get something done about it. It's like in that middle ground of super annoying but not like life threatening. So anyway, I'm still I'm still just trying to. Well, what I'm trying to do now is go a little more the Joe Dispenza route. And if you're not familiar with him, he's a guy who I can't remember the specifics of his injury, but was like paralyzed or had serious injury. And God, I can't even remember his basic story, which is proof that I'm only dipping my toes in. But essentially, this guy meditated on the specific parts of his body. I believe it was his neck or back that were broken. And I'd even read about this in the Vagus Nerve book I have. And he healed his back and neck through just meditating on the specific parts of his body, like looking at the anatomical, like maybe looking at cadaver body footage or whatever, and literally thinking specifically about how the arrangement of tissue and bone and all that is, and visualizing it healed. And I guess over time it actually healed just through his meditations. So, and Bashar really confirms this idea consistently with the idea that we're shifting through multiple billions of realities a second based on our energy, our intent, and that you can shift to a reality where it's not that you healed from cancer, it's that you never had cancer, and that new reality is basically the way it works energetically. Not that everyone in your life has their memories erased that you had cancer or any of that. It's just that it's like your body has no cellular memory of it existing in that different timeline. Because there's billions you're moving through a second, there's obviously a huge gradient of timelines we're moving through. So we think of it like each timeline is some extreme difference. They're actually like, there's such small differences that's why we can shift through them billions of times a second, and it looks like one fluid reality. Like I'm just trying to get my head around this now after 2 years of trying to absorb this concept of shifting realities billions of times a second. It sounds insane, but it also sounds insanely cool because there's so many more options. You know, basically any version of yourself you can imagine exists. But as Bashar has said, is it going to be relevant for your soul's path? So, you know, you might be the president of the United States or something in one timeline, but if you are not even close to politically minded or interested in those kinds of ideas, the relevance of that experience would be so small that there's really no chance you're going to experience that. But I think you can actually tap into the energy of those different versions of you, which is from what I'm piecing together is what Bashar talks about in the future as the future human being able to shapeshift and take on different forms and all these different kinds of things, because we'll be more cognizant of parallel versions of ourselves and able to literally bring them forward, which sounds like some like witchcraft stuff. But again, all these ideas, witchcraft, sorcery, summoning, they're based on, to me, real things that exist, but we are putting them through our very human lens. So there's all this fear and judgment attached to these ideas. But dude, I think the future is going to be freaky and cool, man. Like, I think the earth is going to be just an incredible place. Like, when we are aware of what we're doing and how we're moving through reality and perceiving each other energetically as equal beings, like, can you imagine what that would... I can't even freaking conceive of how that would actually play out. It seems like a fantasy. It seems unbelievable. The cynical part of me is like, you know, that's never going to happen, right, dude? You know, you're just dreaming again. You know, you're just taking your religious trauma and repackaging it into a new belief system. You know what? That I might be. Like, truly, I don't know. I haven't had the firsthand experience to know that this is only a part of the puzzle. Every piece of my intuition and gut and heart aims towards, yes, you're not this temporary incarnation, but it's real because you're here. The experience is real. It doesn't matter if the fundamental reality itself is real or not, which it's not. It's a projection of our consciousness. But it makes it real in that we're experiencing it. We're moving through it. So, you know, we might as well call it real because to us it is real. But there's a beauty in knowing that it's not real and that it's not binding, and that the things that happen here that seem irreversible and unforgivable or irredeemable, whatever, they're not, because they are just a projection of consciousness to experience a specific set of conditions, to have a very certain and specific experience because your soul wanted to have that. Not because you're trapped, not because you were made to come here, because you're, as Pauline puts it, an adventurous soul. You're brave. Like coming, and Bashar calls you a master of limitation, us, masters of limitation, because very few souls actually would choose to come into an incarnational plane like Earth and deal with the severity of separation and limitation. But I have a sneaking suspicion that we know something, that we know that this isn't just going to be the way it is, that we came here to have a very specific experience of this lift, this moment of upward trajectory in our thought, in our consciousness, in our perception. So yeah, I am still evangelical, but I don't have a specific gospel to preach, and I don't have any fear attached to it anymore. I don't have any need to tell someone they're wrong or they're going somewhere unpleasant. I never wished that on anybody when I was a Christian. That part always pissed me off. I wrestled with the Christian God every step of the way with the idea of hell. It never, ever sat well with me. Yet there were times where I said the lines. I told other people that, this is just what the Bible says. I don't like it either, but that's just what it says. Some people love to tout it as a weapon, and it is such. There are so many passages and verses you can use to twist whichever way you want to embolden any agenda you have. It's truly a book that is ready to reinforce whatever your bias is and have a holy shroud of legitimacy, thrown on it, in your mind at least. And it's really, it is really hard to let go and forgive myself for who I was back then, because I was so arrogant, judgmental, and just petty and small-minded and uncurious and arrogant. Even though I wrestled with it, I embraced the brain rot, the curiosity dip. Because seriously, I don't know if I've encountered more of a energy of we've got it all figured out, what's there left to discover or explore. There's always a few nerds in there like me who are, poking around the edges, but it felt like the general consensus was, hey, fellas, we got them. It's all over. Pack it in. We got this thing figured out. Everything funnels through this one idea that it's all God or it's all Satan, and we're here to choose righteousness. Like, I've never seen so many people just so uncurious in works and ideas that fall outside of that belief system, because like any good cult, it trains you that those ideas and beliefs are brought on by dark forces, that something contrary to the norm is of the devil, of Satan, or of some dark spirit that wants to manipulate you, instead of a teacher that you can choose which lesson to take away from whatever they may be teaching you. As more and more people step away from organized religion or fundamentalist ideology or beliefs or anything that limited them from exploring the curiosity of their heart, like, now is the time to just lean into the curiosity, lean into the weird, lean into the freaky. And I say that within reason. Be reasonable, people. Get your freak on with respect to others. That's the key, right? We're living our truth and expressing ourselves honestly while not impeding on another's autonomy and sovereignty. That's essential. That's sort of a universal law you're not meant to violate unless you're choosing to live in a negative energetic space, which is a valid space. You can live there. You can experience that. I, for one, feel very much done with that, to be fair. Not because I'm above it. I'm better than that. I just feel it's no longer relevant. It's no longer serving me in the way that I sought out to be served by it. And I believe it served its purpose. And I've had experiences here that I couldn't have in a non-physical form. So I recognize it for what it is. Like, I am grateful, but I am ready for a shift. And with that, I'm going to make a separate thought here. This is a more specific train of thought. I was seeing this chiropractor that I mentioned earlier yesterday, and towards the end of the appointment, because I'm an open book, and if I sense that someone else is, I will throw whatever I think out there is worth throwing out there and see what they throw back. And we got somehow into the idea of karma, and I think just the state of affairs in the world, and I was just spewing on about, we're still in a very karmic system of living where we're trading these roles of perpetrator, victim, and mediator. but we're breaking that. We're coming out of that into a dharmic way of living. And he said, I agree with you on the karma thing, except that we come here to be perpetrators. And he looked pretty. I saw the emotion in his eye. I saw a little bit of, kind of a little watering of the eye, which I think happens to me when like someone says something that really steps on like a belief I have that I kind of hold dear. So I was like, immediately I was like, okay, tread lightly, David. And I just tried to explain to him that like, yeah, I don't think everyone who comes here to perpetrate, but I think that, and I didn't articulate this as well as I wanted to in the moment, because in hindsight, I would have said, I mean, how else do you explain, if we're consciously choosing to come here, how else do you explain perpetration? Why would it take place if we're not consciously choosing it? But I told them that I believe, based on channelings and information I've ingested, that I also told them I have no idea is correct or not, that we choose to have these experiences, these positive, negative, dynamic experiences that swing all over the place, where we're victimized, where we're the perpetrator, with people that are in our soul family, that we are the closest to, because there's an agreement there that we know we're not really doing this to each other. It's an exchange in this temporary dreamlike state to learn specific lessons. But to me, it was poetic to know that it's people that we're souls that we are in love with, that we are close with, that are pretty much, as like us as anything could be in an infinite, ever expanding reality experience, whatever you want to call it. And I think maybe that helped him a little bit not take it so like aggressively. Like, he liked the idea that we have these experiences with people we know and love. But, I guess what I kind of missed in the haze of trying to like smooth it out was explaining, well, but we experience it here, right? And I did say that Earth plane is kind of unique in that we have such dynamic, energetic components available, such large shifts and poles from negative to positive, and it's our choice. But I also explained to him that I think we're here to transmute the negative into the positive, and that's where the real like alchemy takes place. That's so magical about Earth. I don't think I kind of threw out way too many massive concepts too rapidly, and then it would honestly take like an hour to try and sit there and walk through the steps in my mind with him of like how I understand this stuff. So I think it kind of came off a little reductive, and it came off to him as a little bit of an assault on his idea that we could never choose to be negatively energized or perpetrators or whatever. But I mean, just look at the world again, look around us. Obviously many choose that. And I think that hopefully the point was there, that this is all driving towards a resolution of these types of exchanges, that we are weary as souls of doing the karmic wheel, that it served its purpose. We learned our lessons. We learned all about, and I told him this too, we learned about what it's like to feel a severe level of disconnection from our source, from our divinity. And it's an experience you can't have as a non-physical being. So I don't know, it's heavy, and it makes me realize that even with people who are into these ideas, I have to be careful about what concepts I throw out there casually, because I have always been the person who's, not always, since my brother broke me down at a young age, I've been willing to stare the abyss in the face, because I'm like, I just want to know. I don't want to be scared by things to the point where I can't face them and just try and understand them. So I've had a pretty uncomfortable tolerance, I would say, to like horrible things. Like, for example, when the Charlie Kirk shooting happened, I probably watched like 5 different angles of it without feeling one strong way or the other, just like this almost medical, scientific like fascination with what the hell just happened. But it's important for me to be able to see really horrific things and not react in a way that is just strongly polarized, honestly, one way or the other. Obviously, I'd rather choose the positive if I'm going to choose either of those. But I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I don't think we're meant to just run from all the terrible things that happen and try not to understand them. I think we're meant to see them and then be able to put them in their place for what they are. Like, feel that heartbreak, because I mean, I did feel, let's be clear, I did feel extremely upset when I saw it. It was extremely upsetting initially, and then that part of my mind kind of turns where I go, okay, now try and absorb the informational aspects here. Put your emotions aside. What happened here informationally? I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that wants to understand things and that's not afraid to confront the horror of it, because I've already seen what humans are capable of in their deepest horrors, and I'm like, all right, my innocence is gone. I might as well just know. You might as well just tell me, because at this point, there's nothing left to protect. And that sounds really bleak and cold, and I'm not saying everyone for sure should be like me or do things like that. Some people can stay in a really just high vibration of positivity, and they rarely come across really gruesome negative things, and when they do, they just pour love into it, and that's all. They don't look at all the details and trying to understand it scientifically or whatever other way I just described. That's honestly the way I would prefer to be. So I'm not saying what I'm doing is like the gold standard. Like, you should just be able to look at darkness and just sort of go, that is really upsetting, but I'm choosing not to be pushed by this into one side or the other. I don't know. Maybe that is the right way. Maybe I'm completely wrong about all of this. That's the point. I don't know. And I told my doctor, at the end of the conversation, I said, the truth is, man, I just don't know. These are my observations on what I pieced together, but I'm doing this a little bit at a time, and I'm 98.6% chimpanzee. So like my complete comprehensive understanding of this is clearly limited, and clearly I'm piecing together fragments of what I think I know. But that's all you can go on, right? I mean, as human beings, we are dealing with such a deep level of disconnection that our memories and our access to information is just crazy limited. So in every moment where we fail, where we disappoint somebody else, disappoint ourselves, give yourself a break. Like, Jesus, and I say that with respect to Yeshua, give yourself a break. You are not some perfect machine that can just execute every last will of your heart with your physical body. You are operating on some busted hardware. Like, it's beautiful in a lot of ways, but it's also super busted. Like our knees, our eyes, our joints, our ligaments, our hearts, our bellies. Things go bad quickly and easily. We get toxins stored in our bodies easily that damage our hormone systems and vital immune system. Anyway, I'm living proof of that. I have so many weird immune system things happening that I have not had the money to diagnose, and I could again live in victimization. But I'm subject to a limited set of conditions right now. Like, this is not fully who I am. That's why I feel the tension, because I know deep down, we are infinite, and we are infinitely creative, and we didn't come here by mistake and by accident. These experiences aren't just some cosmic accident. We're here for a purpose. So I can't prove that to you, obviously. If that has not been clear by now, then I'm not sure how much more clear I can make it. That sounded really dicky. That sounded like me being a parent. To be clear, I'm not a good parent. I don't have this really deep well of just patience and I don't know, like there's the frustration with how backwards and upside down everything is in our world, and then trying to shove my kids through that system because I'm legally obliged to do that without going completely off grid. Like, the tension of that makes it really hard for me to like be the kind of parent I want to be. And I'm using that as an excuse, I think, because it's always a choice, right? And I do try to really make sure my kids know that I'm there for them, and that I want to hear their authentic selves, and that we celebrate who they are authentically. That's, to me, the biggest gift I can give them. That's a major change from my upbringing. So, but as far as just being completely integrated in their daily lives, and which, to be fair, I don't know if that's really healthy. I don't know. I try to give them enough of a leash that they can explore who they are without me hovering over them. But then I find that often when we're in the same room, I see them doing something like really, really detrimental to themselves and everyone around them if they continue that habit of what they're doing. Just basic stuff, not knowing how to do simple things that is exactly how I was when I was that age. There's no knock on them at all. And then I just, but I don't want them to develop these bad habits, right? Just like any parent, like you want them to make better choices for themselves. So I will constantly be kind of like pointing out, wait, don't do it like that. Do it. Let me show you how to, but kind of, I don't know. I just have an impatient tone that isn't specific to them. It's specific to life in general. I just feel an impatience and a frustration with, it's like my soul is poking through in a way that I can feel it enough to be like, there's no way we should be this limited. What the fuck? Like, why are we not? What is going on? Why are there not more people who see it, not the way I see it, but see it from an angle of, an eternal spirit guiding this? But I get it. Everyone's told different stuff. We're all pushed into very different corners and ideas. And again, therein lies my just frustration and confusion with the whole experience. Like, how do we get this thing going collectively in the right direction? We're all going different ways. But if you've been alive in 2025, you know that there is a lot of energy also rising up against the corruption. It's just moving at a snail's pace if you're like me and you're stuck in America. Like if we were in France, this would have been over probably months ago. I could be wrong, but and it's hard to compare a much smaller geographic area to the United States and say, we should be able to do what they do. That is apples and oranges, but it doesn't change the fact that Americans are heavily distracted, placated, and propagandized to just stay heads in the sand and to not question the official narrative. But that is changing rapidly thanks to I don't want to use a lot of derogatory, judgmental words, because I do that in private with my wife talking about this enough and with my kids probably too much. But I've never seen something so blatantly just clown show. Like it's like comic book villain level insanity unfolding every single day. And it's just like, it's allowed to continue. And the only thing I can understand from that and how a man like Donald Trump has somehow evaded all actual accountability, even with his criminal convictions. Like, how is that allowed to happen? But I think the answer has become more and more clear that this is giving us one last grasp of this old energy for us to all collectively see how just stupid and reductive and low vibe it is, so we can leave it in the dustbin forever. I think we're not really convinced, I guess, as humans, until it just flames out in we're so conditioned from movies and entertainment. It's got to be like a nuclear explosion versus using our intuition to see what's been coming what this has been happening for decades in this country. Ever since the Patriot Act, we've been on a fast track towards authoritarianism and just the middle class being erased, and here we are. But of course, there's worldwide instability. Like there's so much conflicting at the same time that it is hard to feel like there's movements towards light and towards love. But I do see a lot of traction there. It's just you don't get a lot of news coverage for positive movements, but I do see the collective energy shifting, and I think we are right on the precipice of a very definitive shift that will be kind of impossible to ignore. But there will still be a choice made within that. Do you want to shift to this new version of existence, human 2.0, in a slightly less physical body with a upgraded energetic system of Earth, and I think the weather will be more moderate, temperate. I could be dead wrong, but I think the actual alignment of the planet will be more in sync. Bashar has actually talked about this on their planet because of the alignment with the rest of their solar system and galaxy, even, that they have this harmony of habitat where it's like basically mild tropic conditions all the time, everywhere. That might sound boring to some people. I don't know. I guess if I'm in a less physical body, it won't matter as much. But right now, I'm having a really hard time going from like 35 degrees to 75 degrees here in old Southeast Georgia. Like my body is not responding well to that on top of everything else. So that's part of the reason I haven't put a new episode out, is I keep like my sinuses are a wreck or whatever's going on. Or I record it and I listen back like I probably will with this one and hear that I was meandering too much and just be too hard on myself and say, okay, no one's going to get anything out of this. You're just kind of shooting darts on multiple dartboards in different bars. There's an analogy for you. Of all the analogies in the history of the world, that was definitely one of them. Thank you. I'll be here all night. If you were laughing, thank you. Appreciate it. If you weren't laughing, I get you. So anyway, these are my thoughts at the moment. I really have been up and down. It's a day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience for me, this life. I feel extreme levity and joy and peace some days, where I just trust that we are absolutely on the brink of ascension and a love-centered style of living. In the age of Aquarius, where things are simple, where we know things, where we're not having to guess and speculate about what's happening with our bodies, with each other, with the planet, with the animals and everything that's around us. Just an intuitional understanding. Not that everything is known all at once, but we are way more connected with the energetic reality of what that thing is we're interacting with and what's behind it. But yeah, there's other days I swing into just utter despair and think we're so screwed. We're going to end up just like the Greys in their version of reality where their Earth was destroyed. But allegedly that's why they're here and doing what they're doing, which I'm not going into all that, to avoid this happening again. But this is one real quick side trail on that topic, and this could be completely untrue. I have no verification. I have heard from multiple sources that presidents have been debriefed on certain aspects of our involvement with non-human intelligences, and that Jimmy Carter specifically was shown at the end of his presidency, maybe not even just information, potentially like an interaction with a Grey, where he was told that the Greys come from a parallel version of Earth where they were humans just like us, but they're mutated now to be able to have survived the conditions that they created, which was basically a nuclear apocalypse. They essentially, like us, went to war, nuclear apocalypse. The Earth was destroyed as a result, and they, I guess before the Earth was destroyed, they had developed technology to travel between parallel versions of reality. Don't ask me how, because I don't know. Came here and have been essentially warning us. Also, there's so many accounts of nuclear arms being disabled by non-human craft. Multiple high-ranking military members have confirmed this in multiple different stories. It's been in congressional hearings. This isn't really like conjecture or rumor anymore. This is fact, that they can manipulate nuclear armaments. And so it does seem to slide in with this theory that Jimmy Carter was told from a Grey, we come from a parallel Earth, we destroyed it with nuclear warfare, we're here to help, but right now your Earth is headed for the same fate. And apparently he cried for days and was super distraught because he was a Christian man who believed in a certain narrative, and then he was told, yeah, hi, I'm a mutated version of you, not you specifically, but humans, and I'm here to tell you you're all fucked if you keep it up. And at that time, we were testing nukes like we were handing out candy, on Halloween. It was just left, right, and center, just dropping nukes everywhere, and they finally had enough, apparently. That's why there hasn't been nuclear testing for decades. Allegedly, the Greys or one or another species came forward and said, knock it off, or we will stop it for you, which is why every time there's been a scare, it's never materialized. And apparently, again, they have armed and disarmed systems to send a clear message that they're in control of our nukes, that there's a non-interference clause with non-human intelligences and us, but when it comes to annihilation, and especially from fellow humans from a parallel reality that are now mutated into this Grey being, which is the typical alien you hear about, the short alien with the big head and large black eyes. They vary in color and in shape and everything. There's like us, many varieties of Greys, not just one type. But yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. That was us on a parallel version of Earth that fucked it up so bad that we had to mutate our bodies and figure out wormhole technology to try and basically save humanity. And so they're also here creating the hybrid races is the whole idea Bashar talks about. I said I wasn't going to go into that. I'm not going to get into details, but Bashar talks about how the Greys are the ones who started the hybrid program, of which we're also a part of that. And I don't know. It all sounds like Star Trek. Again, there are days where I feel very confident in this kind of stuff happening, and other days where I'm like, you're deluded. You're regurgitating like sci-fi tropes, but packaged in a spiritual way. And dude, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think I'd rather like live the rest of my life with a hope of positive change versus just like, well, I'm just going to base everything on like the worst version of reality that's existed and ignore all the positives that existed simultaneously, even on those dark times on the earth. Like Bashar's even talked about that, how like, what we consider the dark ages on earth for other cultures on other parts of the planet might have been enlightenment periods. It might have been really bright and beautiful eras. So we can't just paint everything with this broad brush. We have no idea. And I have no idea. And that's the podcast. Here's a guy who doesn't really know, but just wants to believe in this positive thing. And you know what? Again, I'm just choosing to be a fool for this idea. And again, if I fall on my face, what have I really lost? It was a lot better than what I had before, where I was spiraling in constant negativity and self-judgment and self-loathing and just angry about the beliefs I was raised with, and angry before that at my God and why would he do the things he does. But again, I'm just doing my best to piece this together. I hope some of it makes sense to you or resonates a little bit, maybe with some of your curiosities. I'm not here as a truth teller or a prophet or somebody who can tell you how to live your life. Just sharing my experiences and what has helped push me forward, get me out of the spiral of self-hate, self-judgment, suicidal ideation, all the things that were just prevalent in my life for decades, honestly. And the irony is that, it was completely contrary to all the things I was raised with as far as what would happen if I chose this, which was really, huge to have that open up and be this new perspective. I can say, okay, well then if I was wrong about that, this thing that I thought was so certain, what else am I wrong about? What other beliefs and ideas am I carrying that somebody told me, that I made up myself, that were based in fear? Like, how solid are those beliefs and ideas? Am I willing to crumble those and deconstruct them and build them up into something that's based on truly intuition and a very conscious, willful choice? Because I think a lot of the things we base our lives on are just constructs that have been handed to us and not fundamentally coming from our heart and who we are. So if all of this jibber jabber has been worth anything, hopefully it's driving that point home, that you have to really resonate with your heart, your intuition, and just leave all the other stuff you were told and shown at the door, because it may not be relevant to you at all. And that's okay. You are you. You are the one you seek always and forever. There are those who are helping you. There are those who are assisting you. You're not doing this alone. Just because you are the one that you have to ultimately find your answers from doesn't mean there's not a team also supporting you. It's your soul family. They've been here with you this entire time. Your entire experience in the physical universe or in any kind of incarnational experience you can have as a soul, they're right there with you. There's nothing we can lose. There's nothing that can be destroyed or lost or taken from us. So that's what I'm going to end on. Positivity, love. Let's go up, people. Let's trust in our higher vibes and use the lessons that are being put in our face to choose to never really do this again here on this earth. Not because it's something that is beneath us, because it's not relevant. It's not propelling us forward. It's not helping us move into the type of world we want to live in, where we are all taken care of and we're all looking out for each other and everything is done collectively, that we put behind us hyper individualism and embrace this communal spirit without the trappings of government-run communism and all these things people always attach to the ideas of communing together and living together and being truly the social species we were meant to be and finding harmony within difference. That's the key. Having differences, but celebrating them and not fearing them. So, all right, I love you all so much. If you have any love, hate, mail, questions, whatever, you have the keys, just like it sounds, YOUHAVETHEKEYS 639, just the number 639 at gmail.com. You have the keys, 639 at gmail.com. If you want to send me an email, go for it. And I'll be happy to give you my 2 cents. All right, love you all. Be well, and namaste.